Tropical cyclone Zelia has been downgraded to a Category 1 system, weakening in intensity as it crosses through WA's far north. But the storm made landfall east of Port Hedland yesterday around midday local time as a Category 4 system, bringing strong winds and heavy rains.
Well, ABC meteorologist Nate Byrne joins us now from Karratha, that's west of Port Hedland. A very, very early morning for you at the moment there. Nate, we know that the storm has been downgraded. What can you tell us on the latest on Zelia?
Well, the latest is now a tropical low. She's our ex after what was a pretty wild Valentine's Day for the northwest of WA, Fauzi. A morning, and you're right, it is very early, but nothing out of the ordinary for us. What is out of the ordinary is how this system's been behaving. But overnight, the rainfall has been pretty incredible for parts of the northwest interior. The focus now away from the coast and around Marble Bar. We've seen 280 millimetres just about. In a place called Marble Bar. People might know Marble Bar for being one of the hottest places in the country. Well, now it's one of the wettest at the moment. We've got major flooding occurring on 4 separate rivers. This is just moisture that's been dragged from further north in the tropics. Normally, all of that moisture ends up being dumped near the coast, and so Marble Bar doesn't get that much. What we've seen is rivers, some of them jumping 10 metres. That's, stack 5 and a bit Nates on top of each other, and you'd just be poking my head above the water. These rivers have gone from having nothing in them. Like literally some of the gauges were reading slightly negative because there was no water to even get them wet enough to work properly. But now 10 metres or more. Now that means that communities are cut off right across the region. We still can't get even to Port Hedland. This is 150 k's inland. Small communities, yes, but there are many Indigenous communities and small townships that now can't get to each other. Now that we've transitioned out of a tropical cyclone situation, it's severe weather warnings. Around Newman, including places like Three Rivers, Narrogeen, this is still a very much live situation. Heavy rainfall is still possible, with some totals getting to 120 millimetres a day as this continues to track southwards. But luckily here in Karratha, things have calmed down. Yesterday when we got here, we were still under cyclone warning. Now that quickly changed, but it was still very gusty, very heavy in the atmosphere. And sure, here, it's still the tropics and it's the early hours of the morning, but still perfectly still and calm. And so this place is certainly sighing a big breath of relief, as are many along the coast, although, of course, where it made its crossing at De Grey, we're still uncertain about exactly what's happened on the ground.
I want to take you back to yesterday, Nate. You said that it was very gusty at that time. Of course, WA, was preparing for this Category 5 to hit Port Hedland and Karratha, of course, but then things started to change really quickly. Take us through what was going on there.
Essentially, it was a battle of the wills in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, Fauzi, which I know makes it sound dramatic, but it's exactly what it was from a forecaster's point of view. So essentially, we've got this tropical cyclone where there's a centre of low pressure at the surface that's really, really low pressure. That's what's pulling the winds in towards it, then they swirl around and make a cyclone, right? That then stacks up through the atmosphere and ends up pushing out at the top. But it's what happens in the middle that really matters in terms of where a cyclone goes. And the setup yesterday was that we had a high pressure bridge to one side, a high pressure ridge to the other, and then an approaching upper cold front moving through. And between the three of them, they were batting each other, they were batting around Zelia. And that was why, number one, it was staying still for so long over such warm waters, which let it get to Category 5. But then, as the day progressed, it was who was going to win. You can see the track map of how it changed through the day. It all of a sudden kicked to the east and then got dragged really quickly into the southeast. Now that tells you who the winner was. That was that upper level low pressure system. And that's what's pulled it so quickly. In some ways, really good news, because it meant that Port Hedland missed out on a direct hit, and it also sped things up. So the rainfall totals are a bit smaller than they could have been if that system had continued to be slow moving. But it's something we're still watching very closely, and it's one of those things about cyclones that makes them so difficult to predict accurately any distance away from when they make landfall, because of this battle that was going on in the mid-levels of the atmosphere.
As you say, Nate, you're watching very closely though, but can we say that the worst is over now?
Certainly for the northwest coast, yes, but that rainfall is still being dragged inwards, and it's connecting back up to parts of WA further north than Port Hedland, where there's a band of rain that continues. This is still tapping into some deep tropical moisture, so we're going to see other places affected likely in the coming days, at least by some pretty decent totals, but we'll watch for flooding as well. The road closures are really the thing that's going to be felt by many, and the flood waters, because they're going to take some time to recede, and it's just hard for crews to get in to assess them. We're expecting to see assessments happening through the day today. An update likely for residents here around about 3 p.m, which is 6 p.m. Eastern daylight time for you. So it's still a long way between now and knowing if you'll be able to get home and get reconnected with your local communities.